It's always an afterthought. It's an afterthought in funding in the UK, it's an afterthought in policy and governance in the UK, and it's most of our planet. More than 99% of the living space on our planet is in the ocean by volume. And it's astonishing that we're not doing anything like as much as we should be doing. I trained as an accountant many years ago, and I worked in investment banking for 10 years. And then I came to work in marine conservation, working on land first of all, and then I got into marine. And when I came across the marine world, I was astonished at how far behind we are in not only our understanding, but the way that we look after marine life.
I actually originally started my career working on community-based ecotourism in the Amazon rainforest. So working closely with people who live in a close relationship with nature and helping to support them to diversify their income streams so that they could continue living that life rather than being vulnerable to exploitation from sort of outside forces. I started a company called Naturemetrics in 2014. Which was really specializing in monitoring biodiversity using a tool called environmental DNA, or eDNA, where you can just take water samples and pass them through a filter and then sequence the DNA that's caught on that filter and understand the full spectrum of biodiversity from the tiniest microbes up to the biggest whales, and turn it into something that could be used by everybody out there interfacing with nature. But what I found was that it was taking me further and further away from what's actually happening on the ground. So I was really looking to take a step back to what's happening on the ground, and really a bit more back to my roots where I started out, and working with the communities in the Amazon. That was what had originally inspired me.
I'm a geographer by trade. My background has been in marine protected area management for the last 25 years. I've worked globally in working with communities and protected area organisations who run their marine parks, as they're called, abroad, where communities really take on a lot of the work and run their marine parks for biodiversity conservation and for sustainable use. And every time I've come back to the UK from working abroad, I've thought, why don't we have functioning marine parks here?
And I was lucky enough to meet Duncan over the course of the last 6 years, and he specialised in protected area management overseas, because that's where it's really happening more. And he asked me to help him one day with trying to make something happen here in the UK.
We decided to come up with a plan to try and plug that hole and try and access sustainable finance so communities can set up and run their own marine protected areas.
Yeah. Through a series of discussions about the idea and thinking about what we would want to do over the next year, and finding a funder that was supportive of the work, we then had no choice but to go ahead and do it. And so the PAF was born.
So actually, as part of the podcast series that we were doing for our row around Britain, I'd connected with Belinda, who I'd sort of known through my network, and she was working on the blue economy. And so I asked her if we could interview her for our podcast series on the blue economy and what it meant in the context of the UK. And so I think that was the first time we'd really spoken properly. She then thought of me when they were setting up the Protected Areas Foundation and asked me to come on board as a trustee, which I was delighted to do, but very quickly realised that I wanted to be much more involved, sort of actively getting my hands dirty, and that really that's where I wanted to be putting my energy as well. So I quite quickly transitioned from the Board of Trustees to working as my main job with the foundation. There are enough examples now that show that when the management is right, MPAs can deliver increased biodiversity, healthier habitats, more secure and resilient fisheries for local communities, and a wider diversity of income streams.
Species recovery, ecological spillovers, which means that the benefits that as nature rebounds within the geographically defined area spill over to adjacent areas. You get bigger, larger species.
And now for us, the focus really is making sure that that management piece is working.
I think in the UK and in Europe, we have, for some reason, adopted a risk-based approach to our protected areas. They've been designated, so we've drawn the lines on the map of where those special areas are. but in practice, we haven't really put in any measures to protect nature.
We should have what is called active management. So instead of reacting to risks to our environment, we should be proactively managing for a better state or a shared vision of what we want it to look like. It's bringing everything under one umbrella so we can manage our environment for the whole system, our marine environment for the whole system.
First thing we knew we needed to do was to build trust with community groups, because we can only do this work, the work we would like to do, if community groups genuinely want to take the opportunity to manage aspects of their protected area and would be interested in help from us.
I actually don't think we stand a chance of combating these issues without the local communities. We know the resources at a government level are just not enough to be able to tackle all of this, and yet we have people who are there on the ground who, have a real intimate knowledge of the places and the problems and ideas for the solutions, and that sort of capacity to do things and a real desire to do things as well.
Unfortunately, designations have been made top-down by government bodies without consultation with local people, and then nothing has happened with those designations. So the MPAs aren't working, so the local people see no benefits. And so, unfortunately, marine protected areas get a bad rap. And the only way to do them well, I think, is with communities right at the beginning of the process, centrally brought into it and heard, because they have traditional, long-standing knowledge about that area that goes well beyond anything that the statutory stakeholders know about that place.
If you can resource and equip all of those people and get them united around a shared vision of what's possible in a place and what they want to achieve, then we've got a real opportunity to move the needle.
The dream for the PAF is that we catalyse this change and shift in the way that we do our UK MPAs, so that it is a partnership between government, between the statutory nature bodies and the communities.
I'd like to see significant amounts of public sector finance flowing directly into the hands of the people who know best what to do with it on the ground.
There's a lot of dependency on volunteers to do work, and people do need to be paid to do this work, and it's going to take a new kind of workforce, which I think there's already an interest there for people working in the marine environment and working in marine conservation, and the younger generations do want to do this and they understand the importance of it. And it would be great if we can start almost a new industry in the country to support protected area management and marine protected area management by communities, by paying the people who want to do it and have the skills.
The UK, along with most international countries, is committed to a 30 by 30 goal. And this is a goal to protect 30% of land and seas by 2030, to bring our nature back. We think that the best way to do that is to put communities at the forefront. So our goal for Community 30 by 30 is that in the UK, communities are playing a central role in delivering the 30% protection of our sea.
So although we're working very closely with a small number of communities at the present time, our aim by 2030 is that at least 30 coastal communities are actively managing some aspect of the MPAs on their doorstep and are being supported and resourced to do so.
And it's about making those connections from government all the way through the middle to community.
A genuine power sharing partnership where communities have equal say in the management of MPAs and are listened to and respected for the knowledge and the perspectives that they bring. Our role is to really catalyse that and enable that to happen. So what we end up doing in the long term is all about supporting that, so that we're here to simply facilitate, catalyse, help where help is needed, and then leave something that endures. That means that our protected areas are genuinely looked after by the people who know them best.
The people that I'm meeting through this role are some of the most inspiring people I've come across, particularly in this part of the world. And I'm constantly just blown away by the depths of their knowledge and the extent to which they just are so personally invested in the state and health of the marine environment. If anyone can do it, they can.